Hi, I'm Mary, certified relationship coach, Christian sex educator, empty nester, and happy jet skiing wife who believes God's design for sex in marriage is too good to stay quiet about.
And I'm Katieann, senior pastor, wife, mom to four kiddos, and I always love having some fun, even when we're diving into the deep and holy conversations about marriage and sex.
So, welcome to the Sexual Wholeness Revival Podcast. I'm super excited because we have a really fun episode. This is actually a follow-up of a really juicy topic. So if you have tuned in today, you are at the right place. We are talking about women's desire and how the Hollywood version of it is such a lie and can really mess up couples. But we're going to get to the truth. It's going to be wonderful. And this is explaining the difference between spontaneous desire and responsive desire. So if I'm going to capture this in a question, it would be, how do I go from low desire to feeling in the mood?
That is such a great question, Mary. And I am curious to know how do you know the difference? What's the difference between spontaneous and
I
responsive
am going to
desire?
lay that out for you, but before I do, I want to give just a little disclaimer. And we do this often because we want to take care of you. I don't want couples jumping into a lot of sexual activities that may involve more trust than you're used to. So, again, if you are in a relationship that you have a lot of anger and blame and a negative mindset, you may need to press pause right now and do some other work on your relationship before you come back to this. But if you truly want to improve your sex life and you are willing to learn and to trust and to do some new things, then this is definitely for you. So, what is the difference? Well, the lie that Hollywood told us is about spontaneous sex. And you've seen those movies. It's like instant, like this desire just came out of nowhere. There was no prior stimulation, and they're just like instantly, I want it. I got to have it. It's got to happen now. And there is a little research to this, and I've got some percentages for you. So 75% of men do primarily experience the spontaneous desire, and only 15% of women are experiencing spontaneous desire as their natural go-to.
That's a pretty
I
big
think so.
difference between 75 and 15%. Do you think most people assume spontaneous desire is how sex is just supposed to work? That's just how it's supposed to work. You're just automatically in the mood and ready to
I
go for
do
it.
think that there is a misunderstanding with that. And I've certainly worked with couples, and it has typically been the husband is like, well, if it's not spontaneous, then it's not real. And I don't even want to go there. And he gets really frustrated,
Wow.
potentially resentful. I mean, rejection or a sense of that can creep in. So there are some problems when we don't have this understanding. And to explain what responsive desire is, I'm going to use a really fun analogy. So if you're hungry, woo-hoo-hoo, this is just going to increase all of that right now. So imagine a couple and they're thinking about going out for dinner, and you might have been in this kind of a little sing-song dialogue. Where do you want to go tonight? Oh, I don't care. Where do you want to go? Well, do you want to go to Italian or Mexican? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Okay, let's go to Mexican. And so they make a couple of decisions and they get to the Mexican restaurant and they're looking at the menu. What do you want to eat? I don't know. What are you thinking about? And it just doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. It seems like there's pulling teeth to make this dinner happen that's supposed to be a good thing. And all of a sudden, the wait staff comes out with that tray, and it is heavy and it is full of fajita. And you can smell it even before it gets to your table. And you hear it's just sizzling. Everything is crispy and cooking. And then you see it, and it's beautiful and it's massive. And there's so many pieces. And all of a sudden, when that fajita goes by you, you go, that's what I want, and I want it now. So you have gotten caught up in this whole experience, and where before you were wishy-washy, you weren't really engaged. And when it started to happen and your senses were awakening, booyah, that was exactly what you wanted to eat right now. So this is an example. Our senses can begin to respond and engage in something even before we're aware mentally that's what's going on. In regards to sex, you don't even have to have an emotional or mental desire to begin sexual stimulation, because your body will engage first, then your desire follows. So let me unpack this just a little more. I think this is the missing information. I think this is not shared. It is not displayed in the media, and it certainly isn't displayed in pornography. That is never a good teacher, and there's so many harmful habits that come out of pornography. I can never, ever endorse that. But responsive desire is sexual interest that builds in response to something. What is it responding to? Well, it's some kind of stimulation. So yes, this can be kissing, this can be touching. It also responds to an emotional, romantic connection when you feel safe and seen and you're relaxed. That is a biggie that we overlook. But what's happening is this arousal is coming alive within your body. You know, the blood is rushing, your face flushes, your genitals are engorging. It's amazing experience. That is arousal in the body. And then desire, which is more of the mental and emotional aspect, it follows after. And research tells us that 30% of women primarily experience this type of response, the responsive desire. That's where 30% of the women are. And 5% of the men will function in responsive desire as their primary experience.
Wow, that is such a great word picture. I can't tell you how many times my husband and I have been at a Mexican restaurant and we know what we're going to order, and then those fajitas come out and we're like, we're changing our mind. We're having the fajitas. What a great word picture. How do you think, or more, how does the emotional, romantic connection
Well,
affect
I love
desire?
this because this is the part that you can control or manage. And I have another statistic for you. It says 55% of women experience a combination. So it would be the
Wow.
spontaneous and the responsive. And the way you can increase your percentage is developing some of that emotional connection. This might be within yourself as an individual, like where's your stress level? This could be your relationship dynamics. Have you just had a fight? Have you been no touchy the toes under the sheets for weeks, and that's you have a bridge to cross there? It also affects just your life stage. Do you have young kids at home? We talk about being all tapped out emotionally. Do you have health issues that are chronic or just have flared up and you have to address that? And then at later stages in life with perimenopause and menopause, all of that will affect you. So the more knowledge you have about these things is really, really important. And the more you want to work on your emotional connection, absolutely is going to make a difference here. And when I have these conversations with women, I wrestle with what's the holdup? Because I'm like, oh, there's just so much there for you to enjoy. We know God has blessed sex and marriage, and He wants it to be amazing, physically enjoyable as well as emotionally enjoyable experience. And I'm wondering, so do women just not have this information, or is there another reason they're struggling with responsive desire? What do you think about that?
I think sometimes it's both. I think there is a real lack of education and understanding on when it comes to the
Yeah.
physical aspect, what's actually happening in your body when we are engaging in sexual intimacy. There's a real cool thing that happens that God has designed. But I also think that if you are caught in a relationship or if you feel stuck in your relationship, that sometimes that holdout is your way of it can become your way of trying to get your needs met. And so your emotional needs or if you're not feeling heard. And so I think sometimes at for women, we will use that as a disconnect, as a tool to say, hey, there's a disconnect. And so
Right.
we withhold our physical self to hopefully and I've heard it. I mean, I've done counseling for a while now and I've heard, well, I'm just not going to do it have sex with him until he gets this. And again, you gave a really great disclaimer. So I'm saying this
Mm-hmm.
with that
Mm-hmm.
disclaimer in mind. But if your goal in your relationship is
Right.
connection with your spouse, this becomes an
Yeah.
important piece of connection. And so withholding it
Mm.
becomes manipulative and hurtful. And I think sometimes if a wife feels maybe powerless and maybe things aren't going the way that she hopes, or she doesn't feel safe, she doesn't feel heard, it becomes
Yeah.
a withholding.
And it's false because it's not going to achieve what you ultimately want. It may be in the moment a reprieve of whatever you're avoiding, whether you're avoiding the hurt
Right.
or the anger or the rejection or whatever, but that isn't a long-term solution. And there are times, as to
Right.
say this as an aside, there are times when I don't think it's right for couples to be engaging in intimacy if the trust isn't there. But we are going forward with what is God's design, and that is including trust, always finding ways to
Right.
grow the trust. And I want to do something really, really helpful because you're maybe like, okay, I know there's been some issues. I know emotionally we're not always tracking. So, what can we do? And I've got 3 ways to work with responsive desire and to just encourage you from the get go to see it as a normal type of desire and not to be like something's wrong with me. Or if you're a husband, please don't tell your wife something is wrong with her just because she is responding this way. The ultimate is that both of you want to be close, and just getting your timing right and your understanding right will help so much. But number one, for the initiating spouse, this is your role. I want you to keep this as your motivation to approach your spouse with kindness, with patience, with curiosity. Now, that'll preach right there.
Yeah.
We could really just say, bye, you guys.
Right.
Thanks for joining us. So those are huge and they take some time to develop. Also, when you are beginning the whole let's engage, let's stimulate, let's get close, slow down. because we don't have to be off
Yeah.
to the races. We don't have to check boxes. We don't have to make things happen super fast. If you're trying to work with that responsive desire, then slowing down is helpful. Staying emotionally connected. Now, I know for women, their mental yes is the ultimate place. Even if their body is saying yes, kind of on automated response, their brain has to say yes also. So, ladies, keep track of those wandering thoughts. Don't be worrying about your laundry, your project tomorrow, all of that. And that's part of your work, to stay emotionally connected in the moment and be
Right.
able to give feedback to what's going on. You have to remember that desire is a process and not a switch. You can't just flip a switch and instantly be in the mood. That is unrealistic. And any media or visual source that tells you that is absolutely communicating a lie. So, number one. Okay, now number two, knowing the difference between arousal and desire. And I don't like to get very technical, but I think that this will absolutely help. Arousal is
Yeah.
happening in your body, and desire is
Yep.
happening in your thoughts and your emotions. Now, your body, if it's just an automatic response, you might not have as much control over that, but you can set the stage. Whatever you need to do to relax, to even the step before the step before the step, hey, that's on you to be helping with that. But when the arousal is going on, it's this physiological, it's an automatic response. As I mentioned before, we have increased blood flow. There's lubrication that's happening. There's the erecting that's happening. There's a faster heart rate, breathing, the swelling of the genitals, muscle tension. Your body is doing all of those things, whether you are thinking it through or not. It's pretty amazing that that was God's
Yeah.
design for our body, to get in gear for that, so it can occur without conscious desire. So the body can be ready before the mind. And I hope that helps.
Yeah.
I hope that's what's going on. Oh, and explaining it. And then number three, desire, as I've said, it's the mental and emotional kickoff. It's that place of wanting and yearning for your spouse and just anticipating this pleasure, this fulfillment, this ultimate connection that's about to happen.
Right.
It's a conscious feeling and a thought. I want sex, because you're not going to get to that place of pleasure unless that is what your spirit, soul, and body are lining up to do. So, some work to do there to
Right.
get every part of you
Yeah.
on board with that. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just think, when you add kids that are smaller, you have little kids at home still. I remember this one time the door was locked. We were really getting going and there's a knock at the door, and it is
Oh,
my baby. It's my youngest, it's my son, and he says, "Mommy, I
oh,
need you." And instantly
girl.
everything wants to take me out of
Mm-hmm.
what we are doing and go take care of my baby. And I think he was about 4 or 5. And my husband says, "Hey buddy, are you bleeding?" He said, "No." And he said, "Do you have a bone broken?" And he goes, "No." And then my husband says, "Well, what do you need?" And he said, "I wanted mommy to get me a snack." And he said, "Okay, we'll be there in a little bit." And just him
Ah,
taking care of, like, That's how easy that distraction can come in and just won't take you out of the mood, take you out of wanting to continue having sex because you think, "Oh,
Right,
my baby
right,
needs me." But making this intimate time together a priority is, I promise you, they can wait 10 minutes for a
right.
snack. They're not going to die. They're not like, it's okay. It's okay to
Mhm.
lock the door and let them be hungry for 20 minutes. It's okay. And I think for us women, that oftentimes is a much bigger hurdle
Mhm.
to get over than it is for our husbands. And so, when you're talking about the difference between
Mm.
arousal and desire, when we feel that mommy pull, it really can
Yes.
shut things down for us. But it's okay. It's okay to keep that door locked, and it's okay if they
Those
wait.
those are
They'll be
brilliant words.
okay.
I can see that on a bumper sticker right now.
Yeah.
And
What would you see on a
oh,
bumper
well, it's
sticker?
okay. They can wait. Of course,
It's okay.
then
They
we'd
can
we'd
wait.
want them to
That's
ask
good.
more questions. What are they talking about? And we've hinted at how good sex is by God's design, but let's pull out some scripture. So, Katieann, do you have a favorite that you would like to share?
Yeah, I love Song of Solomon. It's so full of just a beautiful expression of the
Yeah.
desire that the bride and the bridegroom have for each other, and even the fight to be
Mm.
with one another. And I just love it. There was a season in my life where the Lord just led me to read it
Oh,
again and
wow.
again and again and again. And finally I said, Lord, why are you having me read this so much? And he said, because I want you to know when you are being pursued and settle for nothing less. And
Wow.
I went, whoa. And so, that was before I was ever married. And it set a standard. It set a standard in my single years. And so one of my favorite ones is Song of Solomon 1:2. It says, kiss me again, for your love is sweeter than wine. I just love that picture of her saying, kiss me and kiss me again.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm going to be speaking to some high school groups soon, and I'm going to take some of what you just shared because I think that was amazing to set that standard, and to have the joy
Yeah,
and the anticipation and some of the innocence there of just wonderful
yeah.
place of purity and expectation. That's really good. Well, I'm going to make it a little spicy now because one of my favorite scriptures is from Proverbs 5, and this is verses 18 and 19. And I'm reading from the Passion Translation. Your sex life will be blessed as you take joy and pleasure in the wife of your youth. Let her breasts be your satisfaction, and let her embrace intoxicate you at all times. Be continually delighted and ravished with her love. So I don't know how often this passage gets read from the pulpit, but it's right there in the Bible, and God did not turn red. He didn't blush when this verse was written. It is a part of this full plan and design that God has. And hey, we have our
Yeah,
entire lives to unpack this and to learn more and more of God's plan, to learn more about our own bodies, our spouses' bodies, how we connect together. This part about responsive desire falls under timeless love. In when I look at our gifts acronym, because we see that sex is good, it's intimate, it's fierce, it's timeless, it's sacred. This responsive desire isn't about rushing and checking boxes, it's about getting to know
right.
one another and to
Right.
just kind of be in the moment, and certainly to be authentic, because that's going to be the most enjoyable thing for both of you. And I do want to mention
Yeah.
that if this is new for you, and maybe you want to spend some time understanding understanding what do you really think about intimacy. And I have a quiz on my website, limitlessintimacy.com, and it's called What's Your Intimacy Type? And when you answer, it's just 10 simple questions. It won't take long for you to go through it. It will automatically put you in one of 3 categories and send a response to you that can give you steps from whichever category you land in. And it just helps you understanding. Because sex has been such a taboo topic, I believe that we can bring acceptance of God's design and provide encouragement to continue to grow in that. And these types of activities, listening to the podcast and diving into scripture and then learning about yourself through a quiz, all of that will absolutely help you. And hey, it's going to bring that sexual wholeness revival to your life personally.
Yeah, that's awesome. And until next time, let's bring back wholeness.